It's Monday. It's morning.
Hey, it's Macabre, baby. Welcome to the first Monday morning Macabre of almost springtime. And boy, are my arms tired.
Hey!
Hey, you know we got the jokes here, baby.
Rapid fire!
Bang, 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 bang. You can't even keep
bang
up.
to bang.
Biggity bang, bang. Guys, is that Footloose?
I think it's Grease.
No, it's Grease. You're right, it's Grease. We're going to do a Grease reenactment. If you guys want to tune in.
Hashtag fuck the 50s Grease reenactment, where we're really mean to a girl, so she changes everything about herself to
fit in with my group. And then we fly away in a car, baby.
And all of our other teenage friends are 40 years old.
I love it. What a beautiful American cinema masterpiece. Welcome to Monday Morning Macabre, listener, with your hosts, Scones and Darcy. I am Darcy. That is Scones.
Hello.
And each week we bring you something new and spooky. It's that easy. It's 1, 2, 3. It's that easy.
It's a Slingin' Dingers audio production, folks.
Slingin' Dingers proudly presents. I always like it when it's a proudly presents as opposed to presents. I'm like, hey, I'm glad you think so.
They're not
Slingin'
just putting it out there.
Dingers proudly presents Two Turkeys Talking Turkey.
Now let's talk turkey. You white meat or dark meat guy?
I'm a white meat, but it's always dry and I hate it.
I like having the drumstick because it makes me feel like more of a man.
This is the Thanksgiving episode, everyone. We know that we're bringing the cranberry sauce, we're bringing the potatoes.
March 8th, the best time to have.
Nothing better than a March 8th Thanksgiving. Good math, you son of a bitch. Everybody, welcome to Monday Morning Macabre for another week of spooky talk. This week, I am the Macabarista. I will be delivering you from evil.
I'm at the counter. I'm slapping down my gift card, my rewards card.
He's got his beanie. He's got his flannel shirt over a normal t-shirt.
Hell yeah.
He's got his acoustic guitar in his guitar bag on his back.
For sure. In case, the inspiration strikes me, I have to have it ready.
He's going to tell me all about how Morrissey changed the game.
They sure did. God, I love the Smiths.
And I'm gonna be like, I've got like, really, I don't care about what he has to say, and I'm kind of very cold to him at the register.
Are you a goth girl? Because that'd be sick.
That'd be so cool, man. Hey, I'm a goth girl. Everyone, welcome. I'm sure you can tell by my general vibe.
Your genital vibe?
I've got, hey Doc. Real quick, Doc. It's been about a year. About 3 months ago, I started getting this chronic genital vibe. I don't know if you know how to resolve it.
Doctor's just writing on his clipboard, oh shit, we vibing.
It's a new wave for sure. I don't know how to fix it. I tried stuffing my pants full of Doritos and Cheetos, white cheddar, of course, and nothing's been changing. Prescribe me heroin, please. Anyway, we should get to the spooky. Enough about my genital vibe. This week's Scones, we have a user submission.
a
user
suggestion.
Okay, sorry, I got
so.
too much. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I'm a little too much in the software world. We have a listener suggestion. Listener suggestion from the old JC. You know who you are.
Jesus
I don't know.
Christ.
I don't know if I should say. Yeah,
Superstar?
Jesus Christ was like. He was like, bros, that episode you did on Carl Dantzler makes me want to come back from the dead and be his wife. So this week we're going to be talking about the one, the only, the Heaven's Gate cult. Band? Play that genital vibe.
Play that motherfucking vibe.
All right.
Now, it's weird you said this because I just stumbled across and started only the first episode of the HBO 4-part documentary on Heaven's Gate.
Ooh, so you might have a little bit of talking to do.
So
I knew you
now.
had started, so I thought I would choose this so I didn't have to do any work. We're at your boys, All That's Interesting, a classic website that we know and love. This is a little ditty with the title, The Twisted Story of the Heaven's Gate Cult and Their Tragic Mass Suicide. I think this article does a good job of summarizing the whys, the hows, the who, the what, the when, the where.
Oh, good job, article. Article,
shut up.
Article, stop it.
On March 26th, 1997, the Heaven's Gate cult became forever infamous when 39 members were found dead after committing mass suicide. Here's why they did it. Bang, bang.
Why'd they do it?
Turns out, they wanted some sick Nikes, and there you go.
Hey,
easiest way to get a sponsorship.
You
know? Let us begin. Funny and charismatic, an overachiever who was on the honor roll. That's how Louise Winant remembered her brother, Marshal Applewhite, who would go on to become the Heaven's Gate cult leader. None of Applewhite's loved ones could understand how the man they knew, a friendly jester, a devout Christian, a devoted husband, and a father of two, so basically me.
Wait, why the jester?
He was a friendly jester. He was a jokesty. He was a jokey boy. Could walk away from everything to found a cult. And not just any cult. Heaven's Gate was considered bizarre even among the other strange New Age beliefs cropping up in the 70s.
Other cults used to make fun of this cult?
Yeah, Manson was like, that dude's a weirdo. Okay. I am not associating with that guy. He seems strange and
Jack
uncomfortable.
Parsons, you get a load of these idiots?
Yeah, it's just, he's on the phone with Jack Parsons.
Well, I'm sure he's dead by this point, but it's not good for the joke. I couldn't think of another one.
No. It's called suspension of belief, people. Look it up. Heaven's Gate was curiously techie. It had a website before most traditional businesses did, and its beliefs were something like that out of Star Trek, involving aliens, UFOs, and talk of ascension to the, quote, next level. But it also had strains of the familiar. It clearly borrowed from Christianity, as Applewhite claimed to be able to save his followers from Lucifer. It was a combination that provoked laughter and ridicule more often than conversation, but somehow it did convert dozens of people. At this point, this is like, I've realized now that, like, it's easy to convert people to a cult. I'm convinced. It doesn't matter.
It's really not that hard.
You have people, like, doing some real ding-dong stuff all the time. Think of how smart the average person you meet is, and then you're like, that's the average. That's 50% of people are less than that. That's spooky.
Literally, like, I feel like anyone with a decent OnlyFans account could probably start a cult and get a bunch of people to kill themselves.
Yeah. Hey, listeners, how you doing?
That's the world we live in, baby.
Listeners, have you thought about
Patreon members?
Do not listen to this Patreon members too intently.
The inner circle.
Me and Scone sit in a very dark room at a circular desk in robes and look down at our Patreon members, and they bring us offerings, and we either strike them or tell them that they have pleased their deity.
Their offerings are usually a regular non-Patreon listener.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, knife goes in, guts come out.
Knife goes in, guts come out. Get that weird vibe.
Knife goes in, guts come out.
Most recently explored in the Scones. Most recently explored in the HBO Max docuseries Heaven's Gate: The Cult of Cults.
OMG.
There's no question that the cult story remains just as tragic and bizarre today as it was decades ago.
Dude, I watched the first episode, as I was telling you. It was tragic and bizarre.
Like my first trip to SeaWorld. Saw a dolphin spear a manatee live.
just another whaling boat.
It had a harpoon, and those are smart animals, dude.
I had to oil paint it.
That'd be a sick oil painting. Hey, if anyone out there is an artist, I will pay you. You will get commission if you can draw an oil painting of a dolphin throwing a harpoon through a manatee in a boat. I'm 100% serious. Please reach out to me.
It sounds like Jimmy's definitely got to get it to fire up the Microsoft Paint and get on that. But
yeah, if someone
and
can
I look forward to it.
But please reach out, please, please. I need this. The earliest incarnation of Heaven's Gate, as the cult would eventually come to be known, began in the 1970s under the leadership of Marshal Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. So Nettles and Applewhite.
They're like the most grandparents' names.
I know. But Applewhite and Nettles is my favorite fruit juice brand. I love how they have the fun facts below the caps. Applewhite was born in 1931 in Texas and by most accounts had a relatively normal life. Known for his musical talents, he once attempted to become an actor. I don't know why that...
It's the normal... You start...
Hey, you're great at trumpet. Can you cry on command? It's not normal.
No? All right, guess you're a call now.
Yeah. Well, no, you like aliens, you fucking weirdo? When that didn't pan out, he pursued music-focused careers at universities, which appeared to be going well. But in 1970, he was allegedly fired from his job as a music professor at Houston's University of St. Thomas because he was having a relationship with one of his male students. Hashtag.
Scandalous.
Though Applewhite and his wife were already divorced by that point, he struggled with the loss of his job and may have even had a nervous breakdown. You don't say. A couple of years later, he met Bonnie Nettles, a nurse with a strong interest in the Bible, as well as a few obscure spiritual beliefs.
That's how it starts.
Hey, we got the perfect combo, baby.
The Bible is just a gateway drug to cults.
Heaven's just a gateway drug to Nikes. Heaven's Gate. While the true story of how Applewhite met Nettles remains murky, Applewhite's sister maintains that he entered a Houston hospital with heart trouble and that Nettles was one of the nurses who treated him. According to Applewhite's sister, Nettles convinced Applewhite that he had a purpose and that God had saved him for a reason. As for Applewhite himself, he would say that he was simply visiting a friend in the hospital when he encountered Nettles. But no matter how they met, one thing was clear. They're fucking crazy. No, they felt
crazy in love.
They're smooching.
Actually, you should just paint this whole thing as a love story.
Yeah. Honestly, probably wouldn't be that hard. That's probably how they viewed it,
Disney Animation Studios. Call us.
We're all the main character in our own stories. New
York is the fifth character.
But no matter how they met, one thing was clear. They felt an instant connection and began to discuss their beliefs. By 1973, they were convinced that they were the two witnesses described in the Christian book of Revelation.
Imagine just sitting down for coffee being like, you know what? I think we're it.
Scones, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel like we might be Adam and Eve.
We might be. Okay, so hold on. We're Adam and Eve. We're Daft Punk. I gotta keep track of this. We're our alternative egos, Jake Steele and Dick Thunder.
Yep, that's on my birth certificate. It's unclear when they added UFOs and other elements of science fiction to their belief system, but this would ultimately become a huge part of what they stood for. Applewhite and Nettles began to call themselves Bo and Peep, him and her, and Doe and T. Sometimes they even went by Winnie and Pooh or Tiddly and Wink.
That's the worst. The documentary pretty much referred to them as Doe and T, as their normal names, but I don't like Diddly Wink.
No, that's like 5 different iterations of their hip-hop group, and none of it worked. Tiddly and Wink that's a Lamau. They shared a platonic sexless partnership. Hey, listeners, you're probably confused as to why we're laughing so hard. It's because we had to cut a few edits of this. In keeping with the ascetic life, they would come to encourage among their followers. How did they recruit followers, Scones? I'm sure you're wondering. Well, let's talk about it, you stupid idiot.
They paid Instagram to promote their posts.
Yeah, they got Instagram influencers. Kylie Jenner was like, not only does this moisturizer make your skin smooth, but it also allows you to visit the comet that passes and be in the UFO.
Not only does Pepsi fix racism, but a UFO can save you from the devil.
Once they put together their belief system, Applewhite and Nettles wasted no time advertising their new cult, preparing presentations and making sick TikTok trend videos. Preparing presentations for potential followers all over the country. Applewhite and Nettles would distribute posters that promoted a mixture of conspiracy theories, science fiction, and proselytization. Now I know what you're thinking, Scones. What the farts does that mean?
I mean, I know, but can we say what it means for the listener?
It's the act or fact of religious conversion.
Ah.
No big deal, no big deal. And yet these invitations were undeniably eye-catching. The word UFOs would often appear in big letters at the top, with a disclaimer at the bottom, not a discussion of UFO sightings or phenomena.
Got him.
So, Scones, we could make a poster for Monday Morning Cobb and be like, we found out what happened to every missing persons, and at the bottom be like, JK LOL.
It's like those GoDaddy commercials
Yeah.
Only real ones know what I'm talking about.
I know. That was such a weird marketing campaign with what's her face?
Danica Patrick.
Dakota Fanning. And I was just like, why is... It was weird. The posters usually claimed 2 individuals say they were sent from the level above human and will return to that level in a spaceship within the next few months. I don't...
Level up.
They were in the level above human, dude. Damn.
I wish I could get there.
Yeah, I've been trying, but no luck so far.
I'm just still a human after all this time.
You want to do peyote in the woods for like a week and a half with me?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That's Patreon 10 waiting to happen.
Holy moly. The Patreon. We'd make a whole new podcast called Peyote Boys.
It's us, the Peyote Boys.
UFO conversations.
Hold on, wait, I gotta write down. That's another one of our...
Yeah, that's one of our alter egos.
Peyote Boys. Don't think I spelled peyote right. All right.
In 1975, Applewhite and Nettles received national attention after they gave a particularly successful presentation in Oregon. In this presentation, Applewhite and Nettles promoted Heaven's Gate, then called Human Individual Metamorphosis or Total Overcomers Anonymous. I like that they had to use AA as their like fun pun thing, with the promise that a spaceship would whisk their followers away to salvation. But first, they had to renounce sex, drugs, and all their earthly possessions. And in most cases, they also needed to abandon their own families. Only then could they be elevated to a new world and a better life known as Tila, the evolutionary level above human.
I don't know. If this cult doesn't sound as rock and roll as some of the other ones we've talked about.
Yeah, this is very much like a Bible camp feel of a cult.
Jack Parsons' one was way more kick-ass.
Yeah, way more rock and roll.
Definitely not cool. I don't condone it, but definitely did a lot more drugs and rock music.
An estimated 150 people attended the event in Oregon. While many locals thought it was a joke at first, at least a couple dozen people were interested enough to join the cult and say goodbye to their loved ones. Through this grassroots approach, the founders of the Heaven Gate cult were able to convince more people to leave behind everything they knew to follow them and travel with them for about 2 decades. It was a radical move, but for some, the choice encompassed the spirit of the decade. Many were giving up the conventional lives they had started and seeking new spiritual answers to old questions. But before long, some followers began to feel restricted by the cult's rules. As if abandoning their families wasn't enough, members were also expected to follow strict guidelines, including no sex, no human-level relationships, and no socializing. A few members, including Applewhite, took this rule to the extreme by undergoing castration. Yikes.
Oh.
Yikes. We're getting rock and roll, baby.
This is next level.
Yo, this is above human.
Now I'm back in on Heaven's Gate.
Time to watch those 3 other episodes.
Wait, so the dude castrated or the woman?
No, the dude.
Okay.
The followers were also expected to dress largely alike and conform to incredibly specific rules about the most mundane things. Everything was designed to be an exact duplicate, survivor Michael Conyers explained. You were not to come up with, well, I'm going to make the pancakes this big. There was a mixture, a size, how long you cooked it, one side, how much the burner was on, how many per person got, how the syrup was poured on it, everything.
Can't be fucking up the pancakes, dude.
Yeah, flapjacks I get. I mean, that makes sense. So how did a group like this once attract up to 200 members? According to former followers, Heaven's Gate was appealing because of its blend of asceticism, mysticism, science fiction, and Christianity. Michael Conyers, an early recruit, said that the cult's message was appealing because they were, quote, talking to my Christian heritage, but in a modern, updated way. So it's like when companies are like, hey, want to do a kickflip on your way to becoming a napkins distributor?
It's like what they're basically like the preacher that sits in the chair backwards. And it's like,
exactly. He's like, hey.
Now I know your friends are going to want you to drink.
Sex is cool, right? Wrong. Castrate yourself with me. For example, Heaven's Gate apparently taught that the Virgin Mary was impregnated after she was taken up in a spacecraft. That's a classic. Just a classic Bible verse right there.
Fucking virgin.
Jesus was a mega Chad. Virgin Mary was a beta, and she went to space to become an alpha Chad.
That's our religion.
Now cut your dick off.
Heaven's Gate, baby.
Heaven's Gate, baby. Now, as unbelievable as that sounds, that was an answer that was better than just plain virgin birth, Conyers said. It was technical. It had physicality to it. But before long,
like their human relationships.
Yeah. Before long, the cult's belief system became progressively wackier, which would eventually lead to disaster.
But how? How could it get
wackier?
How can getting wackier ever get worse?
One of the cult's major problems was that it was operating on a clock followers believed that if they stayed on Earth long enough, they would face, quote, recycling. The destruction of the Earth as the planet was wiped clean. I got news for you guys. You got billions of years to go. At first, Nettles and Applewhite were convinced it wouldn't come to that. After all, a spaceship run by Tila beings was supposed to arrive for them long before the apocalypse happened. Fate, however, threw a wrench in their plans when Nettles died from cancer in 1985.
Uh-oh.
Womp womp. Her death was a severe blow to Applewhite, not only emotionally, but also philosophically. Nettles' death had the potential to call into question a number of the cult's teaching. Perhaps, most pressingly, why did she die before the Tila beings came to pick the followers up? So now Applewhite's scrambling. Idiot. Yeah, he's scrambling to keep the facade going. He's like, uh-oh. It was then that Applewhite began to rely very heavily on one particular tenet of the cult's beliefs. Human bodies were merely vessels or vehicles that were carrying them on their journey, and these vehicles would be abandoned when humans were ready to ascend to the next level.
Yeah, that's some Aleister Crowley shit.
Yeah. According to Applewhite, Nettles had merely exited her vehicle and entered her new home among the Tila beings. But Applewhite apparently still had work to do on this plane of existence, so he would guide his followers in the hopes that they would reunite with Nettles once again. It was a subtle but important shift in the cult's ideology, and it would have far-reaching and dangerous consequences. Now it's time to get funky.
To the left.
What if we just played the electric slide for a half hour? This is all just the
entire song. And just went right back into...
Listen, guys, we got the rights for the electric slide, and we're just trying to get some revenue off of plays. So this was all just we did like a 75-episode gotcha.
Sling and Dinger said since they paid for the rights, we have to use it in every episode now to make it worthwhile.
So, unfortunately, it's the funky time break. Now it's time to get funky. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. One hop this time. Slide to the left. Slide to the right. Crisscross. Crisscross. The mass suicide of the Heaven's Gate cult. Members of the Heaven's Gate cult believed that suicide was wrong, but their definition of suicide was far different from the traditional one. They believed that the true meaning of suicide was turning against the next level when it was offered to them. Tragically, this fatal offer was made in March 1997. It's not clear where Applewhite got the idea that there was a UFO trailing behind Hale-Bopp, the brilliant comet that was about to make an appearance during that time, but he couldn't let this idea go. Some blame Art Bell, the conspiracy theorist and radio host behind the popular program Coast to Coast AM, for publicizing the delusion. I've listened to Coast AM, actually, because I'm just interested in, like, funny, well, not funny, but, like, it's interesting conversations to hear a guy talk about conspiracies and be like, what's going on in his head? So I could see how he could listen to this and be like, there's a comet, we all gotta die. It's hard to see how Bell could have anticipated what an increasingly worn and frazzled Applewhite would do with this idea. For some reason, Applewhite saw it as a sign. According to him, it was, quote, the only way to evacuate this Earth. The spaceship behind Hale-Bopp was apparently the flight that the Heaven's Gate members had been waiting for all along. It was coming to take them to the higher place they were seeking. And it was coming just in time.
Bring me your higher love.
If they waited any longer, Applewhite was convinced that the Earth was going to be recycled while they were still on it. The 39 active Heaven's Gate cult members had already used the money they made from designing web pages. I love
Squarespace.com?
This is just an IT company with some wacky fucking ideas behind it.
Dude, I bet they could have made way more money if they had Squarespace.
If they had Squarespace, boy, oh boy.
Potential ad, just...
Hey, Squarespace, if you want to reach... If you're like, hey, these guys seem respective of our product. Respectful of our product. The 39 active Heaven's Gate cult members had already used the money they made from designing web pages, the cult's primary source of income, to rent a mansion near San Diego, and so they decided this mansion would be the place where they left their vehicles. Could you imagine being a fucking guy who owns a local bakery shop with a website, and you're like, hey, I haven't heard from Applewhite, my web designer, in a few days. Turns out...
him and a bunch of my other web designers.
Yeah. Starting on about March 22nd or 23rd, the 39 cult members ate applesauce or pudding that had been laced with a heavy dose of barbiturates. Some washed it down with vodka. They did it group by group, placing bags over their heads to ensure asphyxiation, and they waited for death. This was believed to have happened over the course of a few days. Those later in the lineup cleaned up any mess made by the first group and laid the bodies out neatly, covering them with purple shrouds. Applewhite was the 37th to die, leaving behind 2 others to prepare his corpse and, alone in a house full of bodies, take their own lives. After the authorities were alerted via an anonymous tip on March 26th, they found 39 bodies lying neatly in bunk beds and other resting places, dressed in identical black tracksuits and Nike sneakers, and covered in purple shrouds. Their matching armbands read, Heaven's Gate Away Team. So they still had a little bit of fun.
They're sports fans.
The anonymous tipster was later revealed to be a former member who left the group just a week beforehand and received a disturbing package of videotaped farewells from the group and a map to the mansion. Of course, the aftermath of the discovery was chaotic. Reporters swarmed the scene, clamoring for details about the suicide cult. Family members of the victims demanded that their bodies be tested for HIV, and Marshal Applewhite's image was plastered on countless magazines, his wide-eyed facial expressions living on in infamy. But after the initial uproar died down, those left behind had to cope with their loss. Former member Frank Lyford lost his closest friends, his cousin, and the love of his life in the mass suicide. Luckily, Lyford was able to find some semblance of grace despite the traumatic experience. He says, "We all have a connection to the divine within us, as we all have that radio transmitter built in. We don't need anyone to translate that for us," he said. That was the big mistake that we all made, in my mind. It was believing we needed someone else to tell us what our best path should be. But eerily enough, Heaven's Gate still has 4 living followers who survived only because they were instructed to run the group's website in the mid-90s and have been doing so ever since.
Hold on.
You can go to the Heaven's Gate cult website. Yeah, you can go there. I checked it out. They still believe in the cult's teachings, and they claim to be in contact with the 39 members who died.
Yep, it's still here. Red alert. Red alert. Yeah. Hillbop brings closure to Heaven's Gate.
Pretty wild. So you can visit the Heaven's Gate heavensgate.com, everybody. If you want to see a website, their web design is trash.
Dude, you can order their books.
As someone who is literally a software engineer, this is a 1990s era website if I've ever seen one.
I can order a videotape.
It's pretty wild that they have not updated this. Anyway, that's the Heaven's Gate cult. And it's, again, another just... You realize, oh man, people are easy to convince of things if they are looking for it, you know?
For sure. If any TikTok star or social media influencer decided to do this kind of crazy shit, people would do it. Like, yeah, thousands of people. And
that's horrifying to think about.
But in the context of all the fucked up shit we've talked about in the show, Heaven's Gate, other than the horrifying ending, not that different than a lot of just kind of stricter religions, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, you got what's her face with like the purple or the green slime. That's like a
Nick
that's
Cannon?
Like yeah, Nick Cannon. No, what's you know, the female actor who you gonna make me do this right now. What's her name? Oh, maybe it's Goop? It's Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop thing, remember? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
It's like the Gwyneth Paltrow Goop is a thing, so like, why
not?
Why not Heaven's Gate?
That's close to Nick Cannon. I say we're gonna start in New England, part of Heaven's Gate.
New England, West Virginia.
If anyone wants to meet us, we're gonna get in our Celtics warm-up suits. We're gonna
get
poison
in my Tommy Brady jersey.
Gonna put some poison in some Lodge Ice regulars from Dunks and just lay down on Fenway.
Let Wally the Green Monster take my soul to the next fucking plane of existence, kid. Maybe wake up in Southie after a real bad hangover, guy.
Freeze our bodies like Ted Williams.
Hell yeah, brother. So that's Heaven's Gate, everybody.
I mean, I grew up going to church. I think if those sermons had a little more UFOs, I definitely would have been paying attention a little bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's fun religion, you know? That's what cults are.
Except
they're
the
just
pancake
religion
thing. Like, man, let me do my own pancakes.
Yeah, exactly. If they're like, hey, 3 flapjacks per person, I'm like, motherfucker, I want
human to human relationships, no thank you. But once you start messing with my pancakes, like...
Yeah, that's where they cross the line. I will cut off my genitals that I'm vibing with. But once you take away my flapjacks, we're on
take away that flapjack vibe. My hotcakes.
You're on borrowed time at that point, Mr. Man. Everybody, if you're looking for more Monday Morning Macabre, check out our website, mondaymorningmacabre.com. Like, comment, subscribe below. Hit the bell for notifications. Isn't that a thing?
What was it? I think back in the day
it's a YouTube. No, it's a YouTube thing.
Oh, sorry.
Follow us on Twitter, MMMacabrePod. Follow us on Instagram, Monday Morning Macabre. Tell your
friends.
Write
us reviews because they help us get on the chat.
Yeah, so other people can be like, who are these ding-dongs and what are they talking about? And
genital
vibing. And I hope you vibe out with your genitals this week. Have a good Monday.
Have a great Monday. And don't join cults.
Yeah, don't join cults. Unless it's the cult of Monday Morning Macabre, baby.
Ho ho!
Ho ho! We've got tracksuits. Goodbye.
Goodbye.